Kathi Morrison, a life coach for the soul. Today, I have a special guest, Jessica Bowie. This is part of my March Gladness series. Each week in March, I'm going to have a special guest, and Jessica is helping me kick it off. So welcome, Jessica Bowie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for letting me be your first guest.
Of course. Welcome to Life Coach for the Soul.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Now, Jessica, you're the Phenomenal Homemaker. So tell me a little bit about that and how you got started that, or any background you feel comfortable sharing today.
Yes. Okay, so the Phenomenal Homemaker represents the modern woman who is killing it at work, but then also they're killing it at home. The Phenomenal Homemaker, she's the type of woman who really understands that in order to, have this healthy, functioning family, it starts with your marriage. She understands that your marriage has to be on lock for it to trickle down into your family and the rest of your life. So I'm really passionate about just the home and how we create that type of atmosphere for our families to flourish in terms of it being safe, it being comfortable, and it being somewhere where everyone feels loved. And just being able to help the modern woman kill it and win in marriage. That is what I'm all about.
Wow, that is a lot in a nutshell, but it basically covers like every area of the woman life, motherhood, womanhood, careerhood.
Yes.
You got all the hoods in there.
Yes, all of them. And I forgot one of them, selfhood. So I mentioned that you want to have your marriage on lock, but you also recognize in order to have your marriage on lock that you also have to take care of yourself, which is a whole nother aspect of being a phenomenal homemaker.
Exactly. A lot of people are talking and emphasizing self-care.
Yeah.
Especially now during this pandemic,
Absolutely.
So it's never a bad time to focus on that part of you, because we as women have so much to give to our marriages, our families, our children. And it can take a lot.
That's right.
So
that's absolutely true, because I feel like we tend to, like you said, give to our families. And if we put ourselves on the back burner, then we are not showing up, point blank period. We are not showing up as the best wife we can be, as the best mother we can be, even as the best employee we can be. So you're right. We cannot continue to pour out of an empty place, because it's just, you're going to do damage in the long run.
I totally agree, because with all of those categories, we want to give our best.
Yeah.
We want to be our best me,
Absolutely.
Your best you.
Right.
And so it takes a lot of focus and just kind of keeping, just staying on point at every level, not falling short in any of those areas.
Exactly.
So also, one of your quotes on your Instagram is teaching modern women how to win in marriage.
That's absolutely right. So I'm very, very, very passionate about giving women, modern women, millennial women, the tools as well as the techniques they need in order to navigate the ebbs and the flows of marriage, right? So we have a lot of older people who just have all of these years of wisdom, which is phenomenal, very helpful, just invaluable, to be honest. But then also, as we continue to evolve as a generation, millennials, we need to actually be equipped with a lot of tools that we might not have known about, because we just haven't gone that far in that journey. We haven't been in the position where we had to learn those sort of things. And also we have to be a little bit more strategic these days because of just the day we live in, social media, just the amount of access we have to just so many different things. It's a different generation than what our parents grew up in. So I think it's important to prepare ahead of time so you can have those tools and techniques to navigate this different world we live in, and just the different things that we have on our plate, so that you don't have to have as much on-the-job training. I always say on-the-job training because obviously you're going to learn through marriage how to be married, right? But then also I think it's important to have as much preparation as possible so that the on-the-job training isn't as intense and brutal for people. So I'm very passionate about helping people kind of have realistic expectations and tools and techniques to navigate through marriage before they actually get into marriage. And if they are married, I also am very passionate about helping them kind of bridge that gap between expectations and reality.
I agree, because as a married woman myself, having been married 31 years, I think it's very important to have those who've come before you,
Absolutely.
who have, I guess, the wisdom, the experience has been through many experiences in their marriage, the learning, the growing. Because when I was married years ago, 31 years ago, like I mentioned, I was starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And it just takes, you kind of learn as you go.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. And so even with, my spouse, it was all like, okay, this is new to us.
On the job training,
yes,
right?
on the job training. Totally just taking it one day at a time,
Absolutely.
1 year at a time. And then as you grow, because even as an individual, when you're married, you're still growing.
Evolving,
I mean, we don't know who we are at that time as we do now.
That's
after many, many
right.
years of growing, being married, even as a single person, you're not who you are right now, who you're going to be 20 years from now.
That's right.
So that's a very good point.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we actually have a couple marriage mentors who, I'm not sure their age. I think they're either in their 60s or 70s, but it's kind of like what you said. They say those same exact things to us. They're like, guys, listen, we started off, we didn't have access to like premarital counseling and like marriage mentors and like these different conferences and books and social media marriage influencers. We didn't have any of that. We literally had to jump in that thing and figure it out, like you said. So it's like, gosh, it's like that type of like grunt when it comes to marriage is just so like inspiring for me and my husband. And so I think now that they've laid the groundwork, it's like, okay, let's actually take what they learned, bucket it up, and teach it before you actually get in that thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
I know a lot of people have been in, I guess, in the mentor kind of decade, this last decade or so. And mentoring is so important.
Yeah.
It's like someone coming alongside you to
agree.
help you walk through this journey or down this path. And marriage is a day-by-day thing, like I mentioned. You just don't know what to expect, when to expect it, or how to respond to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we learn to not react, but learn how to act in the midst of any trial, in the midst of any trouble, in the midst of any disagreement. We learn how to communicate better, and communication, of course, is one of the number one keys in marriage. And then even at the same time when you're married, initially you're still laying the foundation to stabilize the marriage going forward.
That's right. You know what? I like what you said about in marriage, it's like a day-to-day thing and you don't really know like what's going to happen the next day. I always say marriage is very volatile. Like it's like this, like the stock market. You just don't know what's going to happen.
You don't.
So I love how you're saying basically they need to be proactive to be able to be on top of it before you react, right? Because it's like you don't want to be in a position where it's like, okay, crap just hit the fan. So like, now what? You know what I mean? Like you want to be able to be prepared and well-conditioned and trained to be able to navigate those things. And I also like what you said at the beginning when you were saying like as a mentor, you have those people to help you along the way. And I think what's so great about your coaching and what you're doing is when it comes to investing in a coach, it's like a shortcut to a lot of things that you would experience if you didn't have a coach, right? So like, instead of just going through life and just being like, okay, like, just kind of figuring it out. Like when you have a coach like you, it's like, okay, I have like the cheat sheet to like marriage or life or whatever it may be. I don't even have to go through some of those things that I would have had to go through if I didn't have a coach. So I love that you're doing this and that you brought that up.
Yes, it's always been one of my passions. I've been encouraging women basically my whole life on some level. Now that I'm actually able to step out on that passion and fulfill my purpose, I feel like I am a life coach, period, for life in general, marriage, relationships, emotional wholeness. I mean, you name it, you need a coach to do that.
Absolutely.
I consider myself, if you notice, most of the coaches in basketball or even in the NFL, they are former players. So when they become a coach, it's like they know what goes on the field and off. They know what plays to run. They know what play works. And so as a coach, they are training their players with their experience.
Exactly.
And so as a life coach in marriage, I consider myself someone who's not only been there and done that, but someone who's still doing that.
Yes, absolutely. So it's like, not only do you have like that historical experience and that insight and being able to like identify something like immediately because you know it. Not only do you have that type of thing, but you also are in it currently. So you can also speak to like the current situation, you know? So I love that.
Yes, I consider myself still on the playing field of marriage.
Still in the game.
Within marriage, still in the game.
Yep.
Doing all I can to make that happen and to keep that happening. So tell me about your background. How long have you been married?
So I've been married for almost 4 years. On March 4th, that'll be our 4-year anniversary. My friend was just telling me the other day, she's like, "Oh, you have a bachelor's degree in marriage now." I was like, "That's interesting." Right.
Well, I must have a doctorate.
I was about to say,
I must have like 10 doctorates.
I was about to say, I was like, how does that work? Because people, I mean, you know, So yeah, 4 years in March, and our story is completely different than a lot of people's. We got married 1 year in. We actually found out we were pregnant 6 months in, so we kind of rushed a plan that we had already put in place. And so as March 4th being our marriage anniversary, it's also our dating anniversary. So we've been together 5 years in March and then married for 4 years. So
how exciting.
Yep. And we have a 3-year-old who turns 4 in April. So that's really exciting. We also have one on the way, so we're just kind of expanding our family. Thank you. We're expanding our family.
You are a phenomenal woman and a phenomenal homemaker.
And you know what? While we're on that topic, I forgot to mention earlier that like not only does a phenomenal homemaker like show up for their family, but they also know when to outsource and know when to delegate. That is so huge, important. Right?
Yes,
because like you mentioned, we're pouring. We're wearing all these hats. We're corporate people. We're doing this. We're trying to be a good friend. Like we're trying to do all these things, but you can, or you know, I'll speak for myself. I cannot do all of that because it's just the recipe for burnout. So I am busy, but I also outsource and I also pay people to help me out.
Well, there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I know that people think they can be a superwoman, but I don't have a red cape.
Nope.
And I don't want one.
I don't want one either.
You know, thank goodness, you know, my husband and I, we have, you know, we're at the phase of the empty nest phase.
Yep.
And it was just a joyful ride, but it was a full ride, the whole motherhood process.
Absolutely.
So it's good to get to this point where we have time for ourselves, so we can focus only on ourselves. Because when we had younger children, we gave them our all.
Absolutely.
All our time, all our energy.
Yep.
All our
everything. And probably gave your careers a lot more too, because you had to obviously provide. But now you're like, you know what?
Yes.
I think we're good.
So that's why as a life coach, I'm so glad that I can now, you know, no longer put others first. You know, my husband, my children, they're all into their
they're good
into their season.
Yeah.
And I'm finally entering mine.
Yeah.
But you know, as I'm like you said, it's important as a mom to not, you know, continue to not make time for yourself, whether it's reaching your goals, reaching your purpose, fulfilling your purpose, whatever you feel that calling may be.
Absolutely.
So speaking of calling, how did you decide that this was your calling and this was your passion and where you wanted to direct your energy for you?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think that I basically came to this conclusion that this was my passion because I wanted to have a healthy marriage. That was like my ultimate goal. I came from a toxic relationship back when I was in college, and I feel like that was like a really big turning point for me, where I was like, okay, this isn't what I picture for my future. I don't want this for, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I don't want to look back up and be like, I wasted a lot of time on a toxic relationship when I could have had a healthy relationship. So after that relationship, I pretty much kind of detoxed myself of just everything that had happened. I learned a lot about the flaws that I contributed to the relationship, the things that I saw in him that I didn't necessarily want in a partner. I got very clear on like what I wanted my future to look like, what was a priority, and how I defined what a healthy relationship was. And I sought those things out only. And I'm just very, very passionate about helping other people, because honestly, the satisfaction that you have like within your marriage actually, like I said earlier, it actually trickles down into the rest of your life. So like it actually creates an overall life satisfaction. It contributes to your overall life satisfaction is what I meant to say. But, I just want people to know that when it comes to a relationship, it doesn't have to be toxic, and that you can have a healthy, thriving relationship that takes work, and it's all about what you make it, and then also being very, very clear on like what you want in a partner.
I totally agree, and I really respect your answer, because as a young woman, that's very phenomenal in itself, because most young women sacrifice so much to be in a relationship, including sacrificing themselves.
Yeah.
And they lower their standards. That is, if they have, reasonable standards. And I think it was so wise of you, even after a breakup, that you decided to focus on making yourself better. And I think when we focus on ourselves becoming the person that we like to see someone date, or that person is looking for, and not necessarily what they're looking for, but what you're looking for, what you feel you're worthy of. Mm-hmm. Your self-worth is important, your self-esteem. And that's one reason I do coach younger women as well regarding dating relationships, because for so long, a lot of women have determined that it's more important to have a man rather than to, wait and develop themselves so that they can be worthy and ready for the type of man that they're looking for or waiting for.
Yeah.
And it's all about what you do with that time in between.
Preach.
You decided after that relationship that was toxic, you decided to pour into you. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so important, Jessica. That's really phenomenal, especially as a millennial, knowing that you're able to make some stride, even if you're by yourself.
Yeah,
you may be by yourself, but you're still a whole person.
Yes.
You're not looking for someone to complete you or make you who you are, or make you happy or make you feel better. Because happiness comes from within.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you said. Like, I feel that when it comes to you as an individual, you have to be so convinced on like your identity and your value and your self-worth, to the point where when you see someone who's not worth what you have to offer, that you can easily be like, nope, that's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Flag.
It's a red flag, right? And so I'm not trying to preach or anything, but I'm a Christian, and my core beliefs are derived from the Bible. And so during that time period where I was detoxing, I got really, really, really close to the Lord, and just got really clear on like my confidence within myself and my identity and all of that stuff is truly derived from what God says about me. And at the end of the day, like, I'm so confident that like what I bring to my husband's life, and prior to meeting him though, whatever I brought to a man's life was just like, I'm kind of what that is, y'all. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Exactly. But I think that a lot of women need to get to that place, because there's nothing more, even if you don't get married, if you don't desire that, at the end of the day, there's nothing more attractive as a person than being confident in yourself. You know what I mean? And if you do desire a marriage, then that confidence is attractive to a man, and a real man recognizes it in a heartbeat.
It really takes faith to believe that, and to believe in yourself, to trust that God knows what's best for you. He knows you better than you know yourself. Mm-hmm. So do you think that the confidence that you bring to the table, that sometimes women believe it would be too intimidating for a man, so they kind of, play it down a little bit just so they can, attract a man in the old-fashioned way, which their physical attributes, which is so far beyond that? But I noticed that most of the time women feel that if they look a certain way, if they wear a certain size, or they, wear a certain way of clothing, that's the key. So explain how you didn't fall into that trap. I know your faith brought you to where you are today, but do you remember how that felt back then when you thought, oh gosh, I have to look a certain way to attract a man, and I have to be all that he needs, instead of women waiting for the man to be all that he needs to be? Yeah.
Honestly, in my personal journey, I wasn't concerned about if someone felt like I was too intimidating to them, because I know that whoever's supposed to be with me, like, it's not going to be too intimidating to them. And on top of that, I know that if you're intimidated about me. It has more to do with you than it has to do with me.
Amen, sister.
But I will also
Amen.
say, yeah, don't let them try to tell you not to be your confident self, okay? But I will say, honestly, I run across more women who are the opposite, actually. They're the ones who are saying, like, hey, you know, am I good enough for a man? Am I good enough catch for someone to be attracted to?
Right.
Or am I doing the right things to be seen, and that sort of thing? So I actually run into that more. And I'm really, really passionate about two things. Either one, recognize that if you truly are a prize and you know it and you've done the work, then stand in that firmly.
Exactly.
But if you are two, the opposite, where it's like you're really not it, do the work to be it.
Exactly.
It's no big deal. You know what I mean? Like, we all have times in our lives when it's like, you know, I need to kind of step it up a little bit, you know? So I need to I have to do the inner work and work on myself, whether that's, I need to be less selfish, I need to be more considerate, I need to be, you know, I don't know. There's so many things out there that you can work on, right? So I think that that's the second part of it. It's either you're the prize, walk in that, be confident in it, or two, you're not the prize currently, but it doesn't mean you can't get there, and don't refuse to do the inner work to be the prize. So I feel like I typically run into more people like the ones that don't feel like they're good enough.
So they actually, I guess it's work to work on yourself. And as a life coach, I inspire women to be all they want to become that person that they're not, to, you know, build up their self-esteem, their self-worth, self-care. In other words, don't wait on someone else to validate you. Yeah. Become the validated person who you want to become without relying on other people or relying on a man or a relationship, or even losing yourself in your career. I mean, so many people do that because they need some type of validation. I believe it's okay to be strong in every area that you are, you know, whether it's your career, your marriage, or just as a single woman. But as a married woman, I always knew, and even as a young woman, I had the confidence that you speak of. And at times I did feel and believe that it was, you know, intimidating to some people, but that didn't make me want to lower my standards in order to be approved or accepted by anybody.
I can relate to that. I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like the Lord knew the desires of my heart, and He made me who I am. And I know that even if I come off intimidating, I know how I am, you know, as, you know, one-on-one or something like that. So I don't know. It's just, at the end of the day, I completely agree. Being solid in yourself, whether you're single, you're a corporate woman, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a girlfriend, like whatever it is that you are, like, just walk in that. And it really, a lot of people want to, like, whether they're married or engaged or something, they like to start working on like the marriage aspect of their life first, or the engaged aspect of their life first, but I feel like they truly need to work on themselves first, and then work on that relationship, because you know, the relationship is comprised of you and another person. So like, if you're not on point, you can pretty much guarantee that that relationship might not be on point.
That is so true. And the word self comes before all those other words. Self-worth, self-esteem, self-improvement, self-care. So I think self is important.
Self is important.
All those levels.
Yes, and a relationship's important, but I just feel like sometimes we have our priorities a little bit backwards.
That's
I think
true.
we need to start there, and then we can talk about the relationship. But if we're talking about the relationship, it's like, what is that saying? The cow before the
cart, the horse before
the horse,
the cart before the horse.
The cart before the horse.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm old.
Yeah, I forgot what it was.
It's
something like that. Yeah, I was like, was it a cow or?
That would be the cow and the milk. Getting the milk before the cow.
Yes, I knew it was something like that.
Before the milk.
I think I was talking about both of them interchangeably.
I totally understand.
Yeah, so I think we need to, you know, I don't want to say put first things first, because in marriage I truly believe, you know, we're one and He's supposed to be first before me. But I'm just talking about in the sense of making sure that you truly are healthy before you try to make your relationship healthy.
I totally agree, Jessica. It's been just wonderful talking with you today.
Yes, it's been so good. I love this dialogue.
I'm just so excited about your phenomenal homemaker. I think that's a whole lot to be done in marriage, especially in the early years of marriage.
Yeah.
And you're letting everyone know it's like you're putting in the work and you're showing others how to do it.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I appreciate that.
No
So
problem.
thanks for joining me today on Life Coach for the Soul.
Thanks
And
for
I
having
intend to have you back, Jessica, for another segment.
Thank you so much.
It's
I
been an
appreciate
awesome
it.
interaction, and I know that you were very valuable to everything that you said today is going to help someone.
Yes,
and that's
I
what
pray
life
so.
coaching is all about: helping others win at the game of
Absolutely.
life, the game of marriage, the game of life. So
I love
thank
it.
you so much.
No
You've been a
problem.
blessing having you today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.